The origin story of my evolution began in the embryonic ocean of my mother's womb. 9 months later, I left the familiarity of this maternal ocean for solid ground. 19 years later, I extended my life into the ocean of air blanketing our planet. 27 years later, I climbed above the ocean of air, and my life was elevated into space. Humanity's origin story begins in the prehistoric ocean of Mother Earth. 4 billion years later, life was compelled to claw itself out of the familiarity of the ocean for solid ground. Life left the relative ease of the ocean for the promise of something better, fighting the crushing gravitational pull of the planet the whole way. The journey out of the ocean led to new adaptations, including the arrival of humans. 400 million years after life transcended the oceans, humanity extended itself into the ocean of air blanketing our planet. 58 years later, humanity elevated itself above the ocean of air and into space. Detaching from the planet enabled us to look back and see what we have always been: one single human family with a common origin and a shared future. On May 31st, 2008, my story intersected with humanity's origin story when I became the 478th person to leave the planet. This intersection coincided with humanity and all life on Earth, facing a crisis that threatens the very survival of life here. A crisis that humans must overcome. A crisis that requires a giant leap in humanity's evolutionary process. A life or death crisis that humanity can only solve by transcending individual and collective ego and embracing the true nature of its interdependence with every living thing on the planet and the planet itself. The crisis? We must evolve, see, understand, and act on the fact that we are all part of one human family, or we will perish. On the news today, you will not see many, if any, stories that illustrate humanity's evolution towards a more unified existence. Instead, the news bombards us with examples pointing to humanity's de-evolution to more primitive forms. It shows rampant divisiveness fracturing our species along national, parochial, partisan, racial, and religious lines. The news doesn't reflect the complete reality of the story. An awakening consciousness, a blossoming unity, could help us overcome the divisive darkness. A darkness that surrounds us because we, like the prisoners in the allegory of Greek philosopher Plato's cave, are blind. The prisoners in Plato's cave lived their entire lives chained inside of it, facing a wall. They could see only the shadows cast upon the wall, nothing more. Sounds that emanated from behind them echoed off the walls, leading them to believe that the shadows were making these sounds. They believed in the shadows because they had never seen anything else. They knew no better life, so they did not desire to leave the cave. One day, one of the prisoners broke free of his chains and found another world where his eyes slowly adjusted, and he discovered that reality was not as he thought. He then realized that the shadows he had seen his whole life were mere projections of this outside world, which was superior in every way to his old home. With this new knowledge, he sympathized with those still trapped in the cave and desired to bring them out of it and into the light of 16 sunrises illuminating an awe, wonder, and miracle-filled world. This book is that true story.